It's January 23rd, 2026. And Russians are paying a high price for the ground that they're taking, and they're not taking a lot of ground. I'll show you what I'm talking about in just a second. Let's start with what's going on here. Footage from Krasnodar region confirms the launch of the surface-to-air missile, likely Russian S-300 or S-400 air defense system. The video captures the missile's launch. See over here on the right-hand side, and then you'll see an impact over here. The system captured a missile's launch, flight, and impact at a nearby residential building. So this was just a couple days ago. And remember how air defense hit their own building? Here it is. There goes the S-300 or S-400 missile. And in a few seconds, you'll start to see something lit up over here. Yeah. So that was a couple days ago. Deep Strike, this I think was yesterday. SSU has posted this video of an attack on Russia's main POL terminal in the port of Taman. So there was that strike yesterday, not last night, but yesterday this was out. And then we saw this. SBU struck the Tamanevsk oil terminal in Russia's Krasnodar Krai. Estimated losses are approximately 50 million. So, yeah. Oil storage in Penza, this was just last night. It was struck last night and has caused a large fire. So the Ukrainians just keep going down that same path, working on taking out military and or oil production and oil depots and things along those lines. Now, what were the Russians doing? Last night, Ukraine's Air Force says 76 out of 101 Russian attack drones were destroyed or suppressed overnight. Okay, so about 75% shoot down rate, which is not very good, but there was also only 101, so it wasn't as terrible as that could have been at that percentage. Since it cannot win on the battlefield, says EU versus Disinfo. Since it cannot win on the battlefield, Russia has relentlessly bombed Ukraine's energy infrastructure, weaponizing hunger and basic human needs. That's exactly what they're doing. They're trying to starve and freeze civilians. Get that in your head. Understand that is the strategy to go after civilians, and it changes, and disproportionately women, children, and elderly because of where they're targeting. Forcing Ukraine into surrender through civilian suffering appears to have become Russia's central strategy in the war. And yet we're talking about, well, what does Russia need? They need to stop doing that. Combined Russian attack on Kryvyi Rih lasted about 25 hours. More than the full day. Russia was attacking infrastructure using 70 drones and a ballistic missile. Thousands of people are without electricity. Water supply is working on generators. 3 children and 4 adults injured. Over 90 mine workers were blocked in mines due to a lack of electricity. Thankfully, all of them were rescued alive. 5-year-old boy and his father are among 4 killed after a Russian Garan-2 drones struck Cherasky in Ukraine's Donetsk region. 5 others were injured, including 3 teenage girls and the boy's mother, according to local officials. There was a horror in Dnipro. A Russian Shahed drone struck just meters from where people were they're just walking. Here comes the drone. And they start moving away from it once they start hearing it. But yeah, it's just... January 22nd, 2026, the city of Kyiv experienced its 2,000th air alert. 2,000 since the war began. That's just crazy. This is Russia's attitude toward peace. Bombing peaceful people is the core of Russian culture. This is what they're doing. And somehow we're not the front lines are the front lines. I get that. But when you're doing this to civilians, okay. Mayor Vitaly Klitschko said that the city is preparing for potential Russian strikes on energy infrastructure by setting up designated heating and shelter points in every district. These invincibility points will provide warmth, food, hygiene supplies for residents, including overnight stays. Klitschko urged citizens to prepare for difficult conditions, stock up on food, water, and medicine, and employers to offer flexible and remote work. It's tough. He knows that more is going to be coming after Kyiv's energy. Since late December, over 1,000 Ukrainian civilians were hospitalized with hypothermia diagnosis. Ukraine just needs that help. This is what these are civilians. First truck with charitable fuel for the Kyiv hospital has been uploaded. So thank you to, I think this is 3 Musketeers. It's spelled a little differently. This is true solidarity and humanity, right? Hospitals need to be running their generators when the supply of electricity goes down. Emergency repair crews in Kyiv are working under extraordinarily intense conditions. There are not enough crews, so workers are forced to work 48 to 72 hours straight without breaks. Many are literally collapsing from exhaustion. 2 died just the other day, just collapsed out of exhaustion. Many others have been diagnosed with frostbite and severe psychological exhaustion. But they're true heroes, these guys that are restoring power. And they understand. They're like, I have to be out there doing this. I have to get this back up and running. People are depending on me. Norway has delivered a significant number of AMRAAM missiles for Ukraine's NASAMS air defense systems. Prime Minister Jonas Store said that air defense remains a key focus of Norway's support as Russia continues relentless attacks. That's right. If they had these air defense missiles, a lot of this wouldn't be happening right now. So look at the battlefield. I told you there were high numbers on the battlefield. 1280. 1280 is pretty high. The average is about 1,000, 1,030, 1,050, something like that. Third highest of the war so far this year. 3 tanks, 3 armored fighting vehicles, 33 artillery systems, and 140 vehicles and fuel tanks. So 1280 on casualties. Look at this. This is the line for crossing into the new year, and this is where they are. It's the third highest of 2026 so far. I don't know who Julian Rupke is, but I saw this and it resonated with me because people are sometimes like, oh, you're just gleeful about Russian casualties. I actually feel like icky every time I'm talking about people being killed. But then I remind myself, like this guy's talking about, like, I'll read this and then I'll explain what I'm saying. I'm often asked under my YouTube videos whether I have no pity for the roughly 200 Russians killed per day in Ukraine. So, it's 200 per day. If there's 1,000, you probably have a floor of 200. Maybe it's 300, maybe even 4, but probably more like 200 to 300 per day of that 1,000, whose deaths I already documented 10,000 times over. To that, I can only say Russia's soldiers are in Ukraine voluntarily. That's right. They didn't have to be there. Ukraine was not attacking Russia. Like, let's be clear. Ukraine was not attacking Russia. Oh, but the Ukrainians, they were, those bad Ukrainians, they were attacking those people in the Donbass. So because the Ukrainians were attacking, let's follow the logic. Because Ukrainians were attacking people in Donbass, like Little Green Men and others, right? That means that you should be freezing out innocent civilians in Kyiv and hitting them with Shahed drones and ballistic missiles. Like, it doesn't make sense. Okay, to that, I can only say Russian soldiers are in Ukraine voluntarily for $4,000 a month. They willingly bring unimaginable suffering on millions. That's why it holds true. Every life lost in this senseless war is tragic. But I have pity for the victims, not for the perpetrators. And I feel like whenever I just see like the destruction of human life, I feel bad. But then I remember like that stopped these guys from doing more damage to these innocent victims. And that's the way that I think about this. Okay, engagements and casualties are well above the 7-day average. No confirmed area change. So casualties are up. They didn't take any extra ground, but casualties are up. Overnight attacks consisted entirely of drones. Interception rate could have been better. Yeah, 75% is bad, but it was a low number of drones. Okay, let's look at what's going on the battlefield. Across direction, Russian invaders conducted 62 assaults. That's high. It's within range of like normal, but it's high. So they're really trying to push on Pokrovsk. And then Huliapole's high too, 34 times. Yeah. Here's what's going on in Huliapole. Chuck Farrar. Huliapole in the last 72 hours. The Huliapole sector remained one of the most intense areas on the southern fronts, with sustained Russian pressure, but no major territorial breakthroughs in the immediate city area during this period. Fighting is focused on positional battles, infiltration attempts, repelled assaults, and efforts to isolate or mine parts of the urban area. Ukrainian forces have repelled multiple attacks, particularly near Huliapole itself. Russian forces continue small group infantry assaults and attempted to advance on flanks, but Ukrainian defenses hold in many sectors despite logistical challenges in some Ukrainian units. So they're not gaining ground and casualties are up. That's been the big story. Kharkiv, well, the Kupiansk direction. Remember the Russians were tasked with, you have to retake retake, right? I mean, because they took it back in November, according to Putin and his generals. Kupiansk by February, well, they made one attack today. So they're not really serious about that at all. Okay, these two popular military bloggers confirm not only that Russian forces are now in some areas taking 80% losses, and they'll explain it in a moment, but they're no longer recruiting enough to cover those losses. Let's hear what they have to say. And by the way, they're confirming what I was talking about yesterday. Let's look at this. Our enemies have a new Minister of Defense, Mykola Fedorov, born in 1992. This is a recent photo. He is young. This creates very serious challenges for us. Look, I talked about Fedorov yesterday in this video about 3 important technological innovations. This is big. I'll come back to this in just a moment. Okay, this creates very serious challenges for us, and he now has set the goal of raising the losses for the armed forces of the Russian Federation to 50,000 per month. Like, that's his goal. Many due to drones, naturally to drone-guided artillery strikes and similar methods. Drones are going to be important. Overall, I think he's a very serious enemy, and this is a serious challenge. I completely share your point of view. The challenge is indeed very serious. If we're talking about specifically about casualties, the desired target number could be unfortunately be fully achievable, says the Russian popular blogger, saying that this could be fully achievable. Like, that's amazing. Not long ago, Magyar reported that the number of confirmed enemy personnel killed had reached over 30,000. I don't believe that was in a month, but still, and he's doing the math a little bit wrong here by extrapolating that into something else, but nonetheless, he said 30,000. So basically, this is the same number of people who are joining the army in a month. That's true. In other words, this way our army might not actually grow. And if the number reaches 50,000, there's also Sirski's statement that wars aren't won by defense alone. Sirski said that just the other day. I covered that as well. Seems logical, doesn't it? The statement, combined with the new target figures, already starts to take on a whole new meaning. Yeah, they're nervous. So this form of war, attrition, as we've discussed many times, is really a double-edged sword. Right, the Russians used to think, attrition, that's the way to go. We outnumber them 3-1. But yeah, the question is, who will be able to wield that sword? Yes, basically the kind of drone-powered meat grinder. You want positional war? You got it. And the most interesting part, a friend of mine who was on leave in the hospital told me how they were capturing a tree line. Listen to this story. They're capturing a tree line. Only 20 men from the entire company made it to the end of the tree line to capture a sniper. And there were only 2 of them there, a sniper and a spotter. While our guys were taking a tree line, they were directing drones, mortars, and artillery. The company took 80% losses there. That's basically where they intend to take positional warfare. They make us pay for every single step. Right, I'm going to just stop there. That is the Ukrainian way. This is exactly what Ukraine's trying to do, and this is why they're still holding on, because they're thinking that way. Now, I talked about that video, the 3 important technological innovations with Fedorov, and Fedorov just added Sternenko to his team. Met with Sergei Sternenko. He is joining as my advisor on scaling UAV on the front line. We share a common vision for boosting the effectiveness of drone units. Welcome to the team. This is another great innovation to go on top of that technological innovation. So if you haven't seen that video, I highly recommend you go back to it. Okay, Russia's invading troops near Kramatorsk have abandoned any fixed strategy, according to Ukraine's 24th Separate Mechanized Brigade. After rotating a Russian motor rifle division to replace a Mold airborne division, the Russian military began improvising on both assaults and logistics. Ukrainian officer told the Army TV that invaders now use everything that they can, modern armored vehicles to horses, and that their actions show no clear algorithm. They make mistakes, they learn, they make mistakes again, they learn again, they act again. But they're being attrited at such a rate that the learning is hard to stick. So that's part of their problem. And another part of their problem is they beat their comrades with sticks as punishment. I can't show the video. I freezed it so that you see the stick in the image. And the guy's like trying to protect himself. I won't show the whole, like the video itself, but yeah, you know, we joke in like business circles, like the beatings will continue until morale improves, but like they're really serious about that. Like that's what yeah. Okay. So, how are they going to fix their manpower issues? Well, Russian occupation officials signaled their intent to send tens of thousands of Ukrainian children to summer camps throughout the occupied Ukraine and within Russia in summer of 2026. Russia's Young Army Cadet National Movement is training Ukrainian children how to operate drones in combat conditions. I'm telling you, drones are the key here. Russia is institutionalizing drone development and production in schools in occupied Ukraine through the implementation of the mandatory Fundamentals of Security and Protection of the Motherland curriculum. Russia's expanding forced passportization measures to Ukrainian children under the age of 14. So they are serious about stealing Ukrainian children and making them into the new Russian army. Okay, the Lazlar group destroyed a large concentration of 14 Russian armored vehicles deep in the rear of the Liman front. As Russian forces were preparing to launch a mechanized column attack, the assault was completely neutralized before it began. And then I saw this. This is also the future. Ukrainian ground drone armed with a machine gun captured 4 Russian infantrymen. It's something out of the Terminator. Like this is what's happening. We're moving toward more and more of this in the future. Okay, my shout out is a little different today. Usually it's to a YouTube member or something. Here it's to this guy. Municipal workers across Ukraine are working tirelessly, clearing the aftermath of Russian attacks in freezing weather, cleaning up after heavy snowfall. Among them is 75-year-old Mykola Yurchenko from the Kakova district of Kherson. He is one of Lviv's best street cleaners. After spending 6 months under Russian occupation, he and his family relocated to Lviv in August of 2022. Home will always be on my mind, but this job gives me the feeling that I'm working at home, clearing snow. This work gives me life. And when I came home, even though I'm exhausted, my soul feels very warm. So look, everyone can play their part. That's his part. Your part may be just spreading videos or information or, working with people locally who are refugees or whatever. Whatever it is, everyone can play their part. I'm going to keep saying it. Trump must pressure Putin. I'm not seeing it. I was talking about this. What is the biggest story today? Is it a trilateral meeting? About 2/3 of you think that is. And so that's probably what I'm going to cover first tonight when we get to the 3 big stories. Our Project Tetiana campaign is up to 308,000. So thank you for all of you that have joined. 308,000 pounds out of 320,000 pound total goal. You can still donate the round patch on the end screen if you donate more than 100 pounds. So thank you for that, your efforts and your support, all of you who have donated. All right, my friends, that's all that I have. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person who cares about Ukraine.